Chapter 121, Owe him too much. In the dean's office. Fang Hao was called in and faced questioning from Dean Yang Wenjin. Fang Hao spoke first, saying, "Dean, don't blame me. This is not something I can decide. My mom's stubbornness, you and her are of the same age, you should understand her better than me. Now, my dad will persuade her." The old dean didn't know what to say. She was originally scolding Fang Hao, but he admitted defeat first and turned the tables. Still, she reprimanded, "Why did you secretly prescribe medicine and acupuncture for her? If she has this illness, why didn't you bring her to the hospital?" "Well, my mom knew about her illness and kept it from us. If I hadn't discovered her buying medication for angina, I would have been kept in the dark." "Dean, my mom's personality, can I persuade her? She told me not to tell anyone, otherwise, she would blame me if something happened." "Enough, you just want to show off your abilities. Why are you everywhere?" "Dean, Fang Hao looked innocent. He wanted to argue but found Su Buiyuan entering, looking furious. From Su Buiyuan's appearance, he seemed like he wanted to devour Fang Hao. "Fang Hao, stay here, I was just looking for you. You can't perform surgery on your mom. Xiao Jin, you can't agree to let Fang Hao perform the surgery." Su Buiyuan warned Fang Hao with an angry expression. "Dad, I know you can persuade Mom. I don't have much ability, I won't interfere." "Oh, talk to the dean." Fang Hao exited first. He closed the door and paused outside, hearing the voices inside. Father-in-law said, "Expel Fang Hao, don't let him practice medicine here." Dean Wenjin said, "Reasons? He's your son-in-law. Why don't you kick him out of your house?" "Zhou isn't afraid of death, so I'll fulfill her. She's not daring, I want to see if she has a strong fate." Father-in-law said, "He must be expelled. After this is over, I'll make Suro divorce him." Fang Hao's eyes gradually turned cold. His father-in-law and the dean weren't good people. But soon, a stubbornness emerged in his heart. "These people can't bring him down, they will only make him stronger. I will perform this surgery." Fang Hao shook himself, like a bean sprout unafraid of the pressure from the earth. He would eventually break through the soil. He went downstairs, just as someone stopped him. The person was wearing a police uniform. The middle-aged policeman had an ordinary face but seemed of a high rank based on his shoulder badge. "Are you Dr. Fang?" "Yes. I am." "Leader, what do you want from me? Do you need to investigate me, or do you need me to do some forensic identification?" Fang Hao was a bit stunned. Besides writing a few ghostwritten articles, he hadn't done anything. The exposure of the ghostwriting incident shouldn't attract such a high-ranking police officer. "Hello, Dr. Fang. Here's the situation. Professor Zhou has entrusted us to protect you. From now until the end of the surgery, you will be isolated and protected by us. You won't have contact with anyone, and even if there is contact, you won't discuss anything other than the surgery." "I see. Thank you for your trouble." Fang Hao understood. His mother-in-law indeed had a background, and she truly wanted him to perform the surgery. He had no choice but to go along with it. He was quickly taken to a dedicated consultation office, guarded by police outside the door. Inside the office were Zhou relevant medical examinations and records, all of which Fang Hao had seen. There was also a power of attorney, a waiver, and other documents that required Fang Hao's signature. With no choice, Fang Hao signed the documents. He then assembled the surgical team, calling Lu Yu and LV Jing over, both of whom agreed. Zhou was immediately prepared for surgery. The operation would begin at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Su Buiyuan and others opposed Fang Hao performing the surgery, but Fang Hao was isolated and protected. They couldn't even see Fang Hao, let alone argue with Zhou, so they could only hold back their frustration. They, the family members, could only wait outside the operating room. In the observation room, Dean Yang Wenjin watched as Zhou, under anesthesia, lay quietly on the operating table, awaiting a life-threatening surgery. She felt conflicted. She had known Zhou since childhood, but their personalities clashed, leading to many years of disputes. "Zhou, can you make it through this?" She saw Fang Hao and the surgical team in position, and her brows furrowed. Inside, Fang Hao stood in front of the operating table, exchanged a glance with LV Jing, Lu Yu, and others, then his gaze hardened as he announced the start of the surgery. Through detailed examinations, it was determined that Zhou had angina, a type of coronary heart disease, making the treatment complex. The surgical procedure involved performing coronary artery bypass grafting under cardiopulmonary bypass. The patient's own great saphenous vein was used as the graft material, with one end anastomosed to the aorta and the other end anastomosed to the distal end of the diseased coronary artery segment. Alternatively, the free internal mammary artery was anastomosed to the distal end of the diseased coronary artery, diverting blood flow from the aorta to improve blood supply to the myocardium supplied by the diseased coronary artery. However, performing the surgery carried a significant risk of complications. When the experienced experts, including the old dean, learned that Zhofan had coronary heart disease, they were already reluctant to take on the surgery because they weren't confident in avoiding the risks of complications. If not absolutely necessary, they wouldn't have taken on this operation. Therefore, when Zhofan insisted on Fang Hao performing the surgery, the old dean and the others weren't as resistant as it might seem. Now, watching Fang Hao already cutting into the surgery, the old dean and the experts probably felt a sense of relief. They, like any doctors, weren't omnipotent. They couldn't save every patient. They only saw Fang Hao's skillful operation and the patient's data maintaining normal levels, even if slightly lower but still within the normal range. Outside the operating room, Su Buiyuan and others were extremely nervous and anxious, sitting restlessly. Su Ro was in extreme conflict within. She hoped Fang Hao could cure her mother, and if he did, she would owe him too much. She had betrayed and deceived Fang Hao. Even now, she couldn't bring herself to confess. All she could do was hope that Fang Hao wouldn't investigate her further. But she was even more afraid of the surgery failing. In that case, she would lose both her mother and her husband. If the surgery failed, Fang Hao definitely couldn't work here anymore, and he wouldn't face Su Ro and the others. He would choose to leave. Su Ro didn't want to face such a scenario. An hour passed. 2 hours passed. At the most anxious moment for the family members, the light above the operating room door turned on, the door opened, and Lu Yu walked out. "How is it?" Su Buiyuan and others hurriedly approached, surrounding Lu Yu with inquiries. "The surgery was successful. You don't need to worry. In 2 hours, she will be transferred to the ward. You can wait there. Old Su, you have a good son-in-law." As Lu Yu passed by Su Ro, she added, "Little girl, you have a good husband." Chapter 122, Mentally Exhausted. Operating room washroom. LV Jing had finished washing her hands and saw Fang Hao sitting on a nearby stool, lost in thought. She asked, "Feeling tired?" "A bit." Fang Hao nodded. Standing for 2 hours, continuously performing intricate surgical procedures, was indeed very physically demanding. LV Jing said, "It's probably mental exhaustion for you. This surgery shouldn't have been yours to do, but you did it, and you did it successfully. You have a clear conscience. Why worry so much? Relax. Fang Hao, I've discovered you're a treasure of a young man. You possess medical skills and courage that even we, the experienced doctors, don't have. With a colleague like you, we feel very reassured, truly. With a leader like you, I feel very reassured too." Fang Hao's lips curled slightly. LV Jing had excellent medical skills, and, most importantly, she was open-minded, supporting and believing in him, willing to give him opportunities. Of course, having a husband with 500 sets of apartments in the background made her not worry about a way out. Then listen to your leader. Everyone should open up a bit, relax. The surgery has successfully concluded. If you want to smoke or have a drink, or whatever you want to do, go ahead. LV Jing patted Fang Hao's shoulder, encouraging him, and then left. Fang Hao didn't leave, continuing to stay in the operating room, monitoring the postoperative data of his mother-in-law until she woke up. His mother-in-law still had an oxygen mask on. She couldn't speak, only blinking her eyes. However, the look in her eyes towards Fang Hao was quite gentle and grateful. "I know you want to say, country bumpkin. Wait until you're better to say that. I feel uncomfortable not hearing it." Fang Hao relaxed his brows, a slight smile on his lips, letting Lu Yu and the nurse push his mother-in-law to the ward. He left through another passage. The surgery was successful, and the joy should belong to her family. He wasn't accepted by the Su family, and he was going to divorce Su Ro. He wasn't considered part of the Su family, so there was no need to join in the celebration. He left through the hospital's back door, entered an alley outside, found a roadside stall, ordered 2 stir-fried dishes, and also got a bottle of beer. Seeing Zhofan move to the bed, all the data stable, and Lu Yu repeatedly saying the surgery was very successful, Su Ro and others were genuinely relieved. Director Liu, where's my husband? Su Ro asked, not seeing Fang Hao come over. Fang Hao, he said he was hungry, probably went to eat something. Liu casually said, not thinking much about it, continuing to instruct the nurses. Su Ro didn't need to do anything now, she couldn't help, and her mother couldn't speak despite being awake. She called Fang Hao, but his phone was off. She contacted a private detective and learned where Fang Hao was. She quickly arrived at the alley, found Fang Hao, and said, husband, I'll take you to a better place. Let's eat something better. No, here suits me better. Fang Hao didn't expect his wife to find him, feeling a bit surprised, but he thought she probably arranged for someone to follow him. His whereabouts were naturally noticed. He extinguished the cigarette butt and said, I'll go up later to watch over your mother. There are nurses here, you don't need to worry. You should go home. Su Ro didn't leave, asked the boss to bring over another set of bowls and chopsticks, quickly stir-fry 2 more dishes, and had dinner with Fang Hao. Husband, thank you. She picked up food for Fang Hao, very grateful, watching him eat voraciously. She knew he must be very hungry, and she felt distressed. This man, hailing from the countryside, is incredibly simple and smart. Initially, she didn't think much of him, but he surprised her one after another, leaving her with a sense of indebtedness. What are you thanking for? If I couldn't cure her, not only would you look at me differently, but I would also bring disgrace to this profession. What I did is just part of the job. And now, she's my mother too. What I did is only natural, isn't it? No need for thanks. And someday, when she becomes someone else's mother-in-law, there will be others to take care of her. It won't be my concern. Husband, it won't happen. I won't divorce you. Let's eat. Once we're full, we can go back and see Jiezhou and Tian. Your parents came this afternoon. They're at home taking care of Jiezhou and Tian. You brought them here? Our matters should be handled by us. Why involve my parents? Forget it. Tell them I'll come home to see them tomorrow. Okay, I'll listen to you. Fang Hao didn't want to argue with his wife now. She was pregnant, whether with his child or the lover's child, she was in a vulnerable position. He couldn't bring himself to mistreat such a woman. However, he would double the hatred on the lover. His parents also came from the countryside, and suddenly letting them know about his wife's affair would hurt them. And his mother just had surgery and needed care. His wife hadn't exposed her lover yet, and he didn't know who the person was, so revenge was not possible. His shame wouldn't be cleansed. So, Fang Hao could only let things be for now. In this tumultuous month, Fang Hao learned to endure, and his heart grew larger. After dinner, walking back to the hospital, his wife wanted to hold Fang Hao's hand. He pushed her away. She persisted until Fang Hao compromised, feeling a little proud as she walked holding his hand. In the parking lot, Fang Hao stopped and said, "Go home." "Husband, I want to walk with you a bit more." His wife didn't want to let go. She feared that if she let go, this man wouldn't be hers anymore. "I'm tired." "Then let me give you a massage." "I want to smoke." "Go home." Fang Hao made his wife leave, watching the car drive away. His heart felt bitter. If his wife hadn't cheated and sincerely loved him, it would have been so much better. After all, he truly loved his wife. But his wife did cheat. All of this became meaningless. That jerk probably knew Zhou Fun. He might be someone prominent. Would he come to the hospital to visit Zhou Fun? Su Ro and that jerk might have met. If Zhou Fun couldn't make it, and Su Buiyuan was fooling around with his assistant outside, Su Ro and that jerk might end up together. If that jerk agreed to marry Su Ro would divorce him. In that case, it seemed like he did something foolish. He should have ignored Zhou Fun's life and death. But he couldn't. He was a doctor, and he couldn't abandon professional ethics. "Oh well, Fang Hao, we're looking for you. Hurry up and come." Liu came over, calling Fang Hao. Fang Hao extinguished the cigarette butt and said, "Director Liu, what's the matter? Why is your phone off?" Liu asked first. She jogged over, now putting her hand on Fang Hao's shoulder, breathing heavily. She was quite curvaceous and full. "I forgot." "What's wrong?" "Director, don't worry, take your time to explain." Fang Hao was a bit speechless and a bit anxious. It was not appropriate for a department head to find him. "Why isn't your phone on?" Liu asked, and her hand on Fang Hao's shoulder was full of strength. "I was in a hurry to come down. You should hurry up. The results of your mother's postoperative re-examination are out, and the dean has organized a consultation. They're waiting for you to make a statement. You were the chief surgeon, you can't decline this. Come up. What's there to say about the surgery? Why does the dean want to take over after the surgery is successful? That's unlikely. Your mother and the dean are at odds, it seems like they're rivals. Oh, you have to tell me about their past when you have time. Chapter 123, No Credit, No Blame. For 4 years, I treated my wife and family as my greatest career. I cared for them, loved her with all I had, and worked hard to manage our home the best I could. But in the end, it was all a deception. My wife cheated, and my daughter is someone else's child. This marriage is meaningless. This home is meaningless. A man still needs a career of his own. Fang Hao placed his hand on the handle of the consultation room door, his gaze firm, and then decisively opened it. In the consultation room were old Dean Yang Wenjin and other hospital leaders, as well as directors from various departments and some cardiac experts from other hospitals. Everyone looked at Fang Hao, who said, "I just went to grab a bite. My phone was off. What's the matter?" This was the first time the old dean and others had seen Fang Hao since the surgery ended. They felt that Fang Hao was a bit different now, a doctor with superior medical skills in certain aspects compared to them. Many were envious and jealous. Fang Hao, only in his mid-20s, was able to perform highly complex heart surgeries. What courage that required! And the size of one's courage often reflected the quality of one's skills. Your surgery, Fang Hao, was beautifully done. The old dean applauded, and others followed suit. There's still much I don't understand. What I did was just luck. Strictly speaking, my approach is not reasonable and not worth advocating. Fang Hao modestly deflected the praise. Now that the old dean was praising him, if he were to be punished later, it would be harsher. After all, he had no foundation here, despite Lu Yu and Lu Jing appreciating him. The hospital's decisions were ultimately made by the old dean and her team. Yes, your approach is bold and sensitive. In our hospital, it's not allowed. But exceptions can be made. Let's focus on the patient. The surgery is done, and you were the chief surgeon. Talk about the situation. The old dean asked Fang Hao to review the postoperative examination results and then discuss the surgery's effects and postoperative treatment plans. Fang Hao carefully went through the details and felt even more relieved because the results exceeded his expectations. He gave a brief presentation, attributing much to luck. Lu Jing and Lu Yu could discern some details, especially since Fang Hao had explained his ideas to them in detail before the surgery. However, the board didn't touch on the core content. Listening to the presentation, it seemed like any expert could claim they could do it, but once you started the operation, you'd find yourself at a loss. Lu Yu thought, this young man is quite clever. Lu Jing, knowing what was going on, kept it to herself. As for the old dean and the other directors who were originally candidates for the chief surgeon role, they were now somewhat regretful. If they had known that the surgery wasn't as difficult as they imagined, they would have taken it. After all, performing a surgery that seems challenging but is actually straightforward is still beneficial to them. Now, these benefits fell into Fang Hao's lap. After the meeting, the old dean kept Fang Hao behind and said, "You did well in this surgery, but we can't promote it. So, no credit, no blame." Fang Hao replied, "Dean, please reconsider and restore some of my benefits. Otherwise, with just the basic salary, it's tough for me. Next month, I have to pay utilities and living expenses. I won't even have money for cigarettes." Haha. Are you complaining about being poor to me? Do you think I don't know your family background? That's their business. Alright, it's their business. Otherwise, I would have fired you. The surgery is over, but don't be careless. Your mother-in-law isn't easy to deal with. Pay close attention to her treatment. The old dean did not agree to lift Fang Hao's previous punishment, leaving Fang Hao with no choice. Hospital positions are fixed, and procedures are strictly followed. Doing a successful surgery won't automatically grant you a position. According to the procedure, Fang Hao could apply for the qualification of attending physician, but he was still lacking in experience and exposure to become an associate chief physician. Of course, there were shortcuts for him to advance, such as being specially invited by another hospital or when the hospital establishes a new department and needs a leader. However, the old dean, Yang Wenjin, would not do it for him. For Fang Hao, obtaining a master's degree and then applying for the position of attending physician meant working in that position for 4 years before being eligible to apply for the position of associate chief physician. On the other hand, if he obtained a doctorate, he could directly apply for the position of associate chief physician or even compete for the position of department head. The hospital's promotion channels were limited to these, and in prestigious hospitals like the Provincial People's Hospital, the competition was even more intense. Furthermore, job transfers were not solely based on medical skills. For Fang Hao, the good news was that he had the support of Lu Jing. Lu Jing had already helped him prepare the materials to apply for the attending physician position, and now that the surgery was over, he should be able to secure it. Gaining prescription privileges and obtaining the title of attending physician marked a small step forward in his career. Sigh, these 4 years, I've actually treated Su Ro as my career. How foolish. This lousy woman is not worth it. Fang Hao arrived at his mother-in-law's ward. Inside, Su Buiyuan, Zhou Xiang, and others were waiting. After checking, Fang Hao removed his mother-in-law's oxygen mask, allowing her to breathe through nasal tubes. Mom, you can talk, but try to say as little as possible and don't get angry. If you have any complaints, save them until you're better, and then let me have it. Fang Hao advised, and his mother-in-law replied, that's natural. I've said that this little problem won't take my life. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Later, I'll have a good talk with you. His mother-in-law was still friendly towards Fang Hao. Looking at Su Buiyuan and the others, she expressed a different emotion, feeling warm and grateful. You don't have to worry. I said I won't die. At my age, I've never made a wrong decision. I feel good now. You've all worked hard. Go back and rest. Listening to Fang Hao, she didn't say much. Su Buiyuan said, all right, as long as you're fine. Without your nagging, we're not used to it either. This time, you have to pay more attention to your health. Old Su, you too. We're all old now. Take it easy. Don't push yourself so hard. His mother-in-law didn't say anything more. Fang Hao, on the side, was thinking. Su Buiyuan, don't you understand the meaning behind your wife's words? She's telling you not to fool around outside, you're not young anymore, and fooling around might lead you to die in a young woman's arms. You don't get it, are you pretending? Chapter 124, Embracing the Setting Sun. Fang Hao, come over. I want to talk to you for a moment, Su Buiyuan called Fang Hao aside. He said, Fang Hao, although you performed this surgery successfully, I still don't approve. Your approach is too radical, too risky, and very dangerous. Dad, it's Mom's insistence. That's her problem. I'm talking about your problem. In your future medical practice, you can't take such risks. Before making a decision, you need to think, can you bear the consequences? Take this surgery, for example, if anything had gone wrong with your mother, could you bear the responsibility? Dad, you're right. I'll be more careful in the future. Fang Hao didn't argue, he backed down first. However, he was very dissatisfied in his heart. You, an old man who cheated, what qualifications do you have to criticize me? In the medical field, you, an outsider, have even less right to criticize me. Su Buiyuan didn't expect Fang Hao not to retort. He was waiting for Fang Hao to express dissatisfaction, and then he could attack back, scolding Fang Hao thoroughly. But now, Fang Hao softened, making it difficult for him to attack. He continued, oh, your cousin-in-law complained to me, saying you're lazy, arrogant, and don't listen. This is not right. When you get back, apologize to her. She's also your elder, you should listen to her more. Okay. Fang Hao felt disdain for that cousin-in-law, who was also a maid, actually reporting to Su Buiyuan, trying to pressure him through Su Buiyuan to make him yield. Listen to that woman, buy groceries every day, and clean the house. He already had a real mom and mother-in-law, did he need to serve another one? Go to hell. Suddenly, Fang Hao had a flash of insight. Could Su Buiyuan be having an affair with that maid? Given Su Buiyuan's playboy nature, it was indeed possible. Ah, the elite class. Stay in the hospital and take care of your mom. Call me if there's any situation, Su Buiyuan advised before leaving with Zhou Xiang and others. Back in the ward, Fang Hao continued to look after his mother-in-law. This time, the Zhou family arranged for someone to stay and take care of her, a daughter-in-law from the Zhou family. She was ordinary-looking but had a good attitude and took care of everything very carefully. Fang Hao thought the Zhou family's daughter-in-law was doing fine in taking care of his mother-in-law. He stepped outside to smoke, feeling troubled by recent events. Then he wandered around the inpatient department and ended up at Zhang Jun's ward. Dr. Fang Hao, you came at the right time. I asked Lu Jing to find you. She said you were busy with your mother-in-law's matters. Now that you're here, please take a look. I feel something's not right. As soon as Zhang Jun saw Fang Hao, his eyes lit up, and he hurriedly approached. Brother, should I ask the dean to come as well? Zhang Jun's attendant was a young man, his cousin. No need, no need. Let Dr. Fang Hao check me. You go out first, and I'll have a good chat with Dr. Fang Hao. Zhang Jun asked his cousin to leave. When the caregiver left, Fang Hao examined Zhang Jun, his brows furrowed. Zhang Jun said, since the day before yesterday, I've been having nightmares, very terrifying ones, dreaming that I'm going to die. Fang Hao, I'm quite superstitious about this. 2 years ago, I had a period where I kept having nightmares, and Lu Jing asked me to get checked, and it turned out there was a real issue. Now, why am I having nightmares again? Is there something wrong with my body? After completing the examination, Fang Hao said, Mr. Zhang, I'm different from other doctors. I always speak my mind. The treatment you've received in the past few days hasn't been effective. What should I do? Quickly think of a solution. Don't panic. Your situation, Director Liu and I have been discussing daily. After my examination just now, I have a general idea of where the problem lies. Let me perform acupuncture for you, you shouldn't have nightmares tonight. Fang Hao didn't exaggerate, he indeed noticed that Zhang Jun's treatment had not yielded the expected results. Because Fang Hao had designed it, he had anticipated the effects at each stage of the treatment. Now, at this stage, the lack of these effects indicated a problem. The issue was that the hospital director and others changed the treatment plan, for example, having someone else replace Fang Hao in acupuncture. Alright. Zhang Jun had great trust in Fang Hao now since Fang Hao had given him hope with the successful surgery. After Fang Hao finished the acupuncture, Zhang Jun felt a familiar sensation. I told Lu Jing that when someone else performs acupuncture, I don't feel anything. But when you do it, there's a sensation, like some energy moving. Of course, I can't be sure if it's energy, but it feels very comfortable. Shang Yun relaxed. This is acupuncture. What you're feeling is nerve activity. Energy is too abstract, I can't comprehend that. Fang Hao thought, this is energy. But he couldn't admit it, for things that couldn't be explained clearly, he had to keep it mysterious. Yes, yes. Lu Jing also told me it's nerve activity. Oh, it seems you also told him that. But when Dr. Yi does acupuncture, I don't feel this sensation. Why is that? That's a difference in skill. It's like asking, why do you have 500 houses, and I don't have a single one? It's because... Fang Hao thought for a moment and said, the principle of acupuncture is still not fully understood. We only know that the acupoints are mostly gathering places for nerve cells in physiological terms. Stimulating these nerve cells with acupuncture causes corresponding nerve activity, regulating the body's functions and achieving healing. This sounds abstract, but it's generally like this. For specific individuals, there are many variations. For patients, the depth and structure of acupoints differ. For acupuncture doctors, the depth of needle insertion varies. Dr. Fang Hao, you're absolutely right. When I was studying medicine, I could memorize everything in the textbooks, but when it came to practical operations, it was like I was blindfolded. I didn't know what to do. I just knew that I wasn't cut out to be a doctor. But Fang Hao, you are truly suited for this. Oh, you are even more suitable than your master, Old Su. Mr. Zhang, my master also put in a lot of effort for you. I didn't understand at first why he suddenly became interested in liver diseases. After all, when I first started with him, we were mostly dealing with strokes. Later, I found out it was all for you. Mr. Zhang, after you recover, you should really thank my master. Haha, that's true. Although Old Su is a bit conceited, he's still good at his field. If it weren't for you, as I said earlier, even if he knew what to do, he wouldn't have the ability to do it. The goal is right in front of him, the road is at his feet, but he can't walk it, only you can. Oh, Fang Hao, don't call me Mr. Zhang in the future. Just call me Zhang Gu, it's more friendly. The theory of physician, heal thyself, is bullshit. If you don't save your own people, how can you expect others to? That's just nonsense. Okay, Zhang Gu, I'll take advantage of it then. Zhang Gu, now close your eyes and rest, the treatment will be more effective. If you want to chat, I'll bother you whenever I'm free. Haha, I'll be waiting for you to come up and chat. I won't be at ease without talking to you. Shang Yun left. Such a high-profile figure treats me with such sincerity? Regardless of whether it's genuine or not, there are indeed aspects of Zhang Jun that are stronger than my master, worth learning from. Chapter 125, Your Value. The next day, his wife came early, bringing breakfast for Fang Hao, and also brought Fang Hao's parents. Mother-in-law, how are you feeling? Fang Hao's father greeted Zhoufan in a low voice. I'm fine, just like being bitten by mosquitoes. But Fang Hao insisted on bringing me to the hospital. Look, as soon as I came in, I had to lie down. When you're sick, you shouldn't come to the hospital. Minor illnesses can turn into major ones. Zhoufan nodded slightly. Although she still looked down on peasants in her heart, seeing the sincere greetings from Fang Hao's father touched her. Mother-in-law is right. When I get back, I'll educate Fang Hao, this little rascal. You lie down for now and recover soon. If you need anything, just let Fang Hao know. The more you scold him, the more obedient he becomes. Fang Hao's father knew that Zhoufan couldn't talk much, so he stopped there. After Fang Hao had eaten his fill, he looked at the Su family, Zhou family, and others who came to visit. They were all well-dressed, bringing gifts, creating a lively atmosphere. In contrast, his own parents had differences in various aspects. He took his parents home first. In the car, his mother talked a lot about how to protect the pregnancy, insisting on using rural methods. Fang Hao felt bitter. The child in his wife's belly, whether it's his or the lover's, is still unknown. Moreover, he could divorce his wife at any time, and they would become strangers. What's the point of what his parents are doing now? But he couldn't bear to say the words about divorcing his wife. He was afraid his parents couldn't handle it. This matter needs to be discussed with his parents when the time is right. After freshening up, he went back to the hospital. Lu Jing found him and asked, You treated old Zhang last night. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted you to come last night, but old Zhang insisted on having a private chat with me. He mentioned having nightmares, so I examined him. I found that he had poor sleep, so I gave him acupuncture to help him sleep. When I came out, it was already midnight, and you were already resting. I didn't want to disturb you. In the morning, my parents came, and I've been busy. That's why I'm reporting to you now. Oh, I meant you should have told me in advance. When the director asked me, I could have had a response, saying I asked you to go. This way, even if the director is unhappy, he can't do anything to you. I didn't think about that. I was careless. It's okay. Zhang Gu brought it up first. Fang Ye. Old Zhang, he said he recognizes you as his brother. He slept well last night, no nightmares, and he's in good spirits. From the director's examination just now, the treatment situation is better than in the past few years. Starting today, find time to go over and give acupuncture to Zhang Gu. Acupuncture? I have no problem with that. What does the director say? What about Dr. Yi? Zhang Gu handled it. He gave old Yi 10,000 yuan as a consultation fee, and old Yi had nothing to say. Since the effect wasn't good, what could the director say? It's settled like this. Financial ability. Fang Hao was speechless. He didn't expect Zhang Jun to be so generous. But thinking about it, even if Zhang Jun didn't give money, if he said he wanted to change doctors, the hospital would still have to cooperate. Yet Zhang Jun still paid. Even if acupuncture didn't work, this was a businessman's mindset. You provided a service for me, regardless of whether I'm satisfied or not, I'll pay you. As for how much your service is worth, it depends on my experience. If I'm in a good mood, even if your ability is worthless, I'll still foot the bill. Zhang Jun gave Dr. Yi 10,000 yuan to keep him from causing trouble for Fang Hao. Otherwise, this 10,000 yuan doesn't mean it's yours once you swallow it. When you have to spit it out, it won't be just 10,000 anymore. Of course, this also sends a signal, I have money, and I decide who will treat me. Fang Hao said, okay, I'll follow the director's arrangements. He changed the topic and said, I won't be on duty this afternoon. I'll cover your class. What about your mother's side? I checked this morning. We're past the dangerous period and in a stable phase. Following the doctor's orders will be enough, there's no need for me to keep watch. So, I'll prepare and go to cover your class in the afternoon. Alright, old Zhang wants to see you. I guess he wants you to help him with acupuncture. Oh, he said when you acupuncture, there's a wave of qi movement. Can you really manipulate qi with acupuncture? I don't have that ability. It's about finding the right position and the depth of acupuncture. Fang Hao didn't explain much and left, heading to the inpatient department. Zhang Jun was receiving intravenous treatment, but it didn't interfere with acupuncture. Fang, my man, it's still you who has the skills. I feel much more comfortable after your needle. Once again, Zhang Jun felt the circulation of qi in his body after Fang Hao's acupuncture. His whole body entered a special state, a bit numb but more relaxed. In the hospital room, there was also an elderly person acting as a caregiver, with a majestic presence, who was Zhang's father. Seeing his son's greatly improved mental state, he couldn't help but size up Fang Hao. Then he remembered something and said, "Your name is Fang Hao? The one who performed surgery on Xiao Jun?" "Oh, Brother Fang, this is my dad. You can call him Dad if you want." Cough, this is inappropriate. The old man is the old man and should not be disrespected. Fang Hao was speechless. "Your dad is your dad, not mine." Zhang Jun said, "It's not disrespectful. I can't move on my own. Otherwise, I would kneel to you, and then my dad would be your dad, and your dad would be my dad when the time comes." Zhang's father said, "Nonsense." But he was also very puzzled. When did this young doctor become so liked by his son? This is unreasonable. Fang Hao also felt it was unreasonable, even awkward. He said to Zhang Jun, "Sleeping aids recovery. I'll let you sleep first, okay?" Okay, I'll listen to you. As long as you can make me better, do whatever you want." Zhang Jun cooperated very well with Fang Hao. After Fang Hao's acupuncture on the sleeping acupoint on his neck, he really fell asleep. Zhang's father asked, "Why did Xiao Jun fall asleep?" Fang Hao said, "Actually, sleep is very helpful for recovery. When I pull out the needles, he will wake up." Zhang's father looked at his son's electrocardiogram data, which had improved, very normal. He said, "Dr. Fang, I want to apologize to you. I always thought the one who performed the surgery that day was Yang Wenjin and Gong Yidao. I didn't expect it to be you. Even when Xiao Jun and Xiao Jing said it was you these past few days, I still didn't believe it. Today, I found out that I was wrong. You're young, but you have skills. Grandpa, you're too kind. I'm not as good as you say. I still have a lot to learn." Humble indeed. But you do have the skills. You can be a bit more confident. With confidence, you will give more confidence to our patients and their families. You're right, Grandpa. Tell me, can my son recover? Oh, you're digging a hole for me. Fang Hao thought for a moment and said, "Before the surgery, I thought there was a 1 in a million chance. But looking at the commitment from your family members and the current treatment effect, I think this probability can be increased to 1%. This refers to a complete recovery to a normal level. Of course, there will still be some influencing factors, such as, I'm only responsible for acupuncture. I can't make sweeping generalizations, right? 1%? Zhang's father frowned,